Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So from this video, we are going to talk about curved graphs. So in this curved graphs part, actually most of the ones can easily draw the graph, but they find it difficult to answer the questions which they get with regard to curved graphs. So in this video, I'm going to take two model questions, and from those two model questions, I'm going to cover all the question types that you can have under the topic curved graphs in your O-level examination. So you can download that question tute from the link in the below description, and let's move to question number 1. An incomplete table showing the y values corresponding to several x values of the quadratic function y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2. So that's the quadratic function. Y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2 is given within the interval x greater than or equal to minus 1 less than or equal to 5 is given below. Then first question, find the values of y when x equals minus 1, x equals 2 and x equals 4. So in this case, for these x values, for minus 1, for the x value 2, for the x value 4, we need to get the y value. So how can we get that answer? We need to substitute that x value in all these x positions in this common function. So y equals, for x I am going to substitute minus 1 squared. Then minus 4 times again x means minus 1 plus 2. So minus 1 squared means we get 1. Minus into minus we get plus. 4 times 1, 4 plus 2. So 4 plus 1, 5. 5 plus 2, 7. So when x equals minus 1, y value we can mark as 7. Then I am going to get the y value when x equals 2. When x equals 2. So here also I have to substitute this 2 value in all these x positions. Y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2, that is our function. So y equals, x value is now 2. So 2 squared minus 4 times x value is 2 plus 2. 2 squared means 4. Minus 4 times 2 we get minus 8 plus 2. Here 4 plus 2 6. 6 minus 8, we have different signs, no? So we subtract the smaller value from the bigger one and we put the sign of the bigger value. So the answer is minus 2. And then we have to get the y value when x equals 4. I'll write it first, minus 2. Then x value, then we have to find the y value when x equals 4. When x equals 4. Y equals our common function, y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2. So when x equals 4 means we have to substitute 4 for all these x positions. 4 squared minus 4 times 4 plus 2. 4 squared means we get 16. Minus 4 times 4 again we get minus 16 and plus 2. What happens here? Plus 16 minus 16 get cancelled and we get the value 2 for y. So when x equals 4, y value is 2. When x equals 4, y value is 2. Question number 2. Using the standard system of axes and a suitable scale, draw the graph of the given quadratic function on a graph paper according to the above table. So by using this table, we have to draw the graph. So in this drawing part of the graph, there is something to teach. In this drawing part of the graph, I have seen many students, before even considering these x and y values, first they draw y-axis right at the center, x-axis also right at the center of the paper. So if you mark like that, sometimes you can't mark all these coordinates on the graph paper. So again you have to erase it and you have to draw it again. Because sometimes if you draw the x and y-axis with this way, let's take the coordinate 5, 7. X value is 5, y value is 7. So if you mark the x and y axis with this way, you can mark only up to 3-4 units to this direction. So here we need to have the 5th unit. That means we need to mark 5 on this line. But 5 that locates outside the paper if you draw the y axis right at the center. So because of that, in some cases, if you draw the x and y axis with this way, you can't mark all the coordinates. So to avoid that mistake, there is a small strategy that you can follow. A small thing, you only need to consider the margins of this graph. So in this graph, let's get the margins. Minimum, we have a minimum x value and we have a maximum x value. Minimum x value is -1, maximum x value is 5. So if you consider these x margins, you can see we have to keep more space, to the positive direction of the x-axis. So to give more space, when drawing the graph in the graph paper, to give this space, I need to draw the y-axis at the left-hand side part of the graph paper, not at the center. I have to draw the y-axis at the left-hand side part of the graph paper. So if I draw the y-axis with that way, now I have more space for the positive direction of the x-axis. With the same way, this x-axis also you can draw by considering the margins of y values. Here the minimum y value of this graph is -2. Minimum y value is -2 and maximum y value you have, maximum y value is 7. So that means, as you can see, we have to keep more space to the upper part, to the positive direction of the y-axis. So to keep more space to the upper part, I have to draw the x-axis at the bottom part of the paper. So now if I draw the x-axis with this way, I have more space to the positive direction of the x-axis to mark all these 7 units, and I need to have only a less space now. So I have a small space to the negative direction also. So if you manage the graph paper with that way, no need to erase it and draw it again and again. You can just start and draw the graph. So here you have to remember this part, and when doing the graph question, first decide the x and y axis by considering the margins of the graph. So after deciding with that way, we can start marking the coordinates. Right. Now I am going to draw the graph by considering these x and y values. So here first I am marking the y-axis. This is my y-axis. And this is the x-axis. -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To this side we have to mark up to 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To the negative direction we have to mark up to -2. -1, -2. Now I am going to mark these points. So when x equals -1, y value is 7. When x equals -1, y value is 7. When x equals 0, y value is 2. When x equals 0, y value is 2. When x equals 1, y value is -1. When x equals 2, y value is -2. When x equals 3, y value is -1. When x equals 4, y value is 2. When x equals 5, y value is 7. Right. Then after marking these points, I have to join all these points with a smooth curve. And I have to write the function on the graph, that is y equals x squared minus 4x plus 2. Then after this drawing part, they ask some questions. In the third part they ask, write the equation of axis of symmetry of the graph. So for this graph, I can mark the symmetrical axis like this. So this is the symmetrical axis of this graph. If I fold this graph by this symmetrical axis, these two parts get coincide on each other. So this is the symmetrical axis of this graph. And they ask us to write the equation of this line. Equation. So in small grades you learn, this is x, this is y. So in small grades you learn all the lines that we draw parallel to the y-axis are called x equals lines, or all the lines that we draw vertically are called x equals lines. So this is an x equals line. If this line goes through the point 5, goes through the x value 5, we call this line as x equals 5. If this line goes through the point 10, then we call this line as x equals 10. If this line goes through the point minus 2, then we call this line as x equals minus 2. So all the vertical lines are called x equals lines. Then tell me, what are horizontal lines? Horizontal lines are y equals lines. So if I draw a line like this, and if it goes through the point 10, then that line is called y equals 10. If I draw a line like this, and if it goes through the point minus 8, then that line is called y equals minus 8. All the horizontal lines are called y equals lines, and all the vertical lines are called x equals lines. To mark the symmetrical axis, we have drawn a vertical line. So that means that is an x equals line. And this line goes through the point, it goes through the x value 2. So we call this line as x equals 2. So the equation of the axis of symmetry is x equals 2. So as the answer for the third question, I can write equation of the axis of symmetry. Answer for the third part, that is x equals 2. Then fourth question, write the coordinates of the turning point of the graph. So this graph, it goes like this and turn at this point, and then again moves upward. So in this graph, this is called the turning point. This is called the turning point of the graph. So here, when writing a coordinate, they ask us to write the coordinates of this turning point. When writing a coordinate, first we write the x value, after that we write the y value. Here to get the coordinates, what is the x value at this point? X value we can get by directly moving to the x-axis. So at this point, x value is 2. What is the y value? Y value we can get by moving to the y-axis. Here y value is minus 2. So the coordinates of the turning point is 2, minus 2. That is the answer for the fourth question. 2, minus 2. Question number 5. They ask you to write the minimum value of the function. Actually, in these graph questions, we are always getting the word function. What is function? Function means y. Function means y. Here in the fifth question, they ask you to write the minimum value of the function. That means they are asking you to write the minimum value for y in this graph. So here, if I consider this graph, here the y value is 7, y value is 6, y value is 5. Likewise, y value is reducing. It reduces up to this point and then it starts increasing. So the minimum y value in this graph records at this point. So here the y value is minus 2. That means minimum value for y in this graph is minus 2. So y means the function. So minimum value of the function is minus 2. That is the answer for the fifth question. Then question number 6. Write the quadratic function in the form y equals x plus a squared plus b. Here a and b are constants. So in this case, in the graph lesson we are learning a common format. In the graph lesson we are learning a common format, y equals plus or minus x plus a squared plus b. So in this common format, in this plus or minus position, we put plus if we are having a graph with a minimum value. So there are two main types of graph types. Graphs with a minimum value, that means graphs with this shape, and graphs with a maximum value, that means these type of graphs. Why do we call these graphs as graphs with a minimum value? Because in these type of graphs, y value has a minimum value. Here y value has a minimum value. In these type of graphs, y value has a maximum value. So these type of graphs are called y value with a graphs with a minimum y value. These type of graphs are called graphs with a maximum y value. So in this plus or minus position, we put plus if we have a graph with a minimum value. We put minus if we have a graph with a maximum value. So in our graph, by considering our graph to this plus or minus position, which sign should we put? Here y equals, our graph is a graph with a minimum value. So we have to put plus here. So in this plus or minus position, I decided the sign and I put the sign as plus. Then there is a bracket part. How do we fill this inside part of the bracket? For that, we consider the symmetrical axis of the graph. When writing the inside values of this bracket, we consider the symmetrical axis of this graph. So here, as I explained before, symmetrical axis is x equals 2. So in this case, if I take this plus 2, I am taking all the values to a single side. If I take this plus 2 to this side, what happens? Plus 2 become minus 2. And we get 0 here. So I am taking all the values to a single side until I get 0 at that side. So after that, I put a bracket and I insert this value inside it. So we get x minus 2 as the value inside this bracket part. Then we have another term, plus b. Actually, this plus b value is the y value of the turning point. That is the y value of the turning point. So in this graph, I explained you, this is the turning point. So in this turning point, y value is minus 2. So for this b part, we have to put minus 2. So that is the answer for question number 6. So starting from question 7, they ask you to write about interval of values of x. That means x value ranges. So I roughly mark those questions in this board. So before writing the x value ranges, first I will describe this graph. Normally we start describing the graph from the left hand side corner. So I will mark A, B, C, D, E in this graph. So in this graph, starting from A to C, what happens to the y value? Here the y value is 7. At this point y value is 6. At this point y value is 5. Likewise you can see the y value of this part is decreasing. Here the y value is 2, y value is 1, y value is 0, y value minus 1, y value minus 2. So in this AC part of the graph, y value decreases. I told in the previous part, y means function. Y means function. So y value decreasing means function decreasing. In this AC part of the graph, the function is decreasing. Then with the same way, tell me what happens to the y value? What happens to the function in this CE part of the graph? Here the y value is minus 1. Here the y value is 0. Y value plus 1. Y value plus 2. What happens to the y value? Y value increases. So in this graph, in this CE part, y value increases. Y value increases. That means function increases. Then again, this AB part, this AC part, I can separate to AB part and BC part. Then I am considering this AB part. AB part is also in this AC part. So that means in this AB part also y value is decreasing. Y value is decreasing. Function is decreasing. What can you say about the sign of the y values? Are they positive or negative? Here the y value is plus 7. That means that is a positive value. Here the y value is 6 plus 6. That is a positive value. Y value is 5 plus 5. That is a positive value. So starting from A to B, y values are decreasing and all of them are positive. So this AB part of the graph we call the graph part which the function is decreasing positively. Decreasing we say because y value is reducing. But all the y values are positive, so we call decreasing positively. So this AB part of this graph represent function decreasing positively. What can we say about the BC part of the graph? In this BC part of the graph also, y values are decreasing. Here the y value is -1, y value is -2, so y value is decreasing. What can we say about the sign? Are they positive or negative? Here in this BC part, all those y values are negative. So we call BC part represent the graph part which the function is decreasing negatively. Y values are decreasing and all of them are negative. So we call BC part is the graph part, function decreasing negatively. So BC I can mark, I'll mark it here. BC function decreasing negatively. Function decreasing negatively. With the same way, what can you say about this CD part? As I explained before, starting from C to E, y values are increasing. Y means function. So C to E, function is increasing. CD part also belongs to CE part. That is a part of CE. So in this CD part also, function increases. Function increases. What is the sign of the y values? What are the signs? Here the sign is minus. Here also that is -1. Sign is minus. So in this CD part of the graph, y values are increasing, but all of them are negative. So the CD part of the graph means the function increasing negatively. That is increasing, but all of the y values are negative. So in this CD part, function increasing negatively. Function increasing negatively. What can you say about the DE part of the graph? Function is increasing, no? Function is increasing because in this starting from C to E, y values are increasing. DE is also subpart of CE. So here also y values are increasing. Y value is 2. Here y value is 3. Y value is 5. Y values are increasing. What is the sign of those y values? Are they positive or negative? All the y values in this DE part are positive. They are positive. So they are positive and they are increasing. So we call y values are positively increasing. Y means function. So we call in this DE part, function is increasing positively. Increasing positively. In this DE part, function increasing positively. So according to these questions, in the question 7 they ask, write the interval of values of x for which the function is decreasing positively. Function decreasing positively means AB part of the graph. Y value should decrease and all the y values should be positive. So that means AB part of the graph. Decreasing negatively. Function decreasing negatively means function should, y value should decrease, function should decrease and all of them should be negative. So that means BC part of the graph. Increasing negatively. Function should increase and all of them should be negative. So increase and all should be negative. So that means CD part of the graph. Then function increasing positively. Increase. Function have to increase. Y value should increase. Yeah. This part. Y value should increase. And all of them should be positive. All of them should be positive. That means DE part of the graph. Right. So I labeled all these graph parts that I need to consider. And they ask us to write the x value range. So when writing the x value range, there is a common format. First we write the minimum x value. First we write the minimum x value. Minimum x value of that part. And then we write the maximum x value belongs to that graph part. And in between that we write x and we put the inequality sign in this format. So here they ask us to write the x value range for which the function decreasing positively. Decreasing positively means this AB part. This AB part of the graph. So in this AB part, what is the minimum x value? Minimum x value we record corresponding to this point. Minimum x value is -1. So I am following this structure. Minimum x value, maximum x value. In between that, I am writing x with this inequality mark. Minimum x value, that is -1. And the maximum x value, that means the x value corresponding to this point, if you draw the graph correctly, that is 0.6. So the maximum x value belongs to this AB part is 0.6. Then I wrote the minimum x value, I wrote the maximum x value. In between that, what do we write? We write x with this inequality mark. So I am writing x with this inequality mark. That is the answer for question number 7. That is the interval of values of x for which function decreasing positively. Then question number 8. They ask us to write the interval of values of x or the range of values of x for which the function decreasing negatively. So we identified the graph part, that is BC. So in this BC part also, I am writing the x value range according to the same format. I am considering the minimum x value, maximum x value. In between that, I am writing x with this shape. So in this BC part of the graph, minimum x value is 0.6. Maximum x value in this BC part, maximum x value is 2. And in between that, we write x with this inequality mark. That is the answer for the function decreasing negatively. Then question number 9. Write the range of values of x for which the function increasing negatively. Increasing negatively means we identified the graph part CD. Increase, function should increase and all of them should be negative. So CD part. In this part also, I am going to get the minimum x value and I am going to get the maximum x value. Here the minimum x value is 2. And if you draw the graph at this intersecting point, you are getting the answer as 3.4. So that is the maximum x value in this CD part, 3.4. And in between that, we write x. Then the last part, increasing positively. The interval of values of x for which the function is increasing positively. That means DE part, function should increase and all the y values should be positive. So increasing positively means DE part. Here the minimum x value is 3.4. Maximum x value, that means x value of this point, that is 5. And in between that, what do we write? We write x and we put this inequality mark. Actually, there is another small part to teach about the x value ranges of these two questions. In these two questions, here they ask us to write the x value range for the function decreasing positively. So here, function means y. Then I told you we have to consider the AB part of the graph. Actually, in these type of curved graphs, we don't have ends. That means this point goes up to the infinity. When the x value is minus infinity, y value also goes up to the infinity. Here also the same. When x value goes up to the plus infinity, that means infinity means a large number that we can't even imagine. So when x value gets that large number that we can't even imagine, y value also get a large value. This graph also get to a large y value that we can't even imagine. So these graphs doesn't stop at these 2 points. That means for the part decreasing positively, starting from plus infinity to this b point, all the y values represent the function decreasing positively. All the y values in this part means all the x values also in this part represent that x value range for the function decreasing positively. So here the x value is 0.6. So we can consider all the x values less than 0.6. All the x values less than 0.6 belongs to this part of the graph. So we can write the x value range x less than 0.6 as the answer for decreasing positively part. Both answers are correct. But this is the most correct answer. When writing the positively increasing part also, I told you this graph doesn't stop at this point. It goes up to the infinity. That means it goes up to the infinity means all the x values after this point, all the x values after 3.4 belongs to this part of the graph. That means all the x values greater than 3.4, all the x values greater than 3.4 belongs to that part. So all the x values greater than 3.4 belong to the part of the graph increasing positively. So here also both answers are correct, but this is the most correct answer. Question number 11. Write the interval of values of x for which the function is negative. I told you function means what? Function means y. Function means y. Function negative means y values are negative. So I described in the previous part, in this AB section, in this AB part, all the y values are positive. So function is positive. In this BC part, y values are negative. Function is negative. So when considering the negative part of the function, we can consider BC. CD part, what can we say about the CD part? In that part also, y values are negative. So function is negative. CD part of the graph also we can consider. Can we consider the DE part? No. In the DE part, all the y values are positive. So in this DE part, function is positive. Here they ask us to consider the range of values of x or the x value interval for the function negative. Function negative means BC and CD. Y values negative means BC and CD. So in this BC and CD part, starting from this B point up to D, y values are negative. That means in this whole graph part, all the y values are negative. So I told you when writing an x value range, we have to get the minimum x value 0.6, we have to get the maximum x value 3.4, and in between that we have to write x with the inequality mark. Minimum x value 0.6, maximum x value 3.4, and in between that I am writing x with the inequality mark. So the x value range for the function which is negative means x greater than 0.6 and less than 3.4. Actually, all the x values which belongs to this part is in that range. If I consider the x value corresponding to this point, that is 1 point something. So 1 point value means that is greater than 0.6. Let's take this value as 1.6. 1.6. So actually 1.6 is greater than 0.6 and that is less than 3.4. So any value belongs to this graph part lies between 0.6 and 3.4. So that's why we call all the x values lie in this range, greater than 0.6 and less than 3.4. So that is the answer for question number 11. Then question number 12, they ask us to get the x value range for the function positive. Function positive means AB part and DE part. Positive here, positively. Function decreasing positively. That is the AB part. So positively means y values are positive. Here DE part represents function increasing positively. Increasing or decreasing, but the y values are positive. Here y value positive, here y value positive. So when answering for the question number 12, we have to consider the AB part of the graph and the DE part of the graph. So I am considering AB part of the graph and DE part of the graph. If I write the x value range of this AB part, I can write x greater than minus 0.1 less than 0.6. How do we write the range? We write the smaller value first, that is minus 0.1. Then after that we write the larger value, that is 0.6. And in between that we write x and we put the inequality mark. That is the x value range for AB. When writing the x value range for DE, then also we write the smaller value first, 3.4, and then we write the larger value belongs to E, that means 5, and in between that we write x with this inequality mark. So for the function is positive part, we have two x value ranges, x greater than minus 0.4 less than 6 and x greater than 3.4 less than 5. When describing the previous part, I told you here we are considering this AB part starting from here to here, but actually for the function positive part, starting from here up to the infinity we can consider. From here up to the infinity we can consider. So up to the infinity means the n value is not minus 1, actually that is minus infinity. So minus infinity means all the x values which are less than 0.6 we can consider for the AB part. So all the x values, I am just ignoring this part, all the x values less than 0.6, all the x values less than 0.6, we can consider as the x value range for this AB part. Then for this DE part also, we can consider this graph doesn't stop at this E point. I told you it goes up to the infinity. So this x values also goes up to the infinity. It doesn't stop at this 5. It goes up to the infinity. So here, starting from 3.4 up to the infinity, all the x values we can consider for this positive graph part. So we can write that inequality by ignoring this 5, x greater than 3.4. Yes, x greater than 3.4. X greater than 3.4. And in between that also I am putting and, because we have two x value ranges, x less than 0.6 and x more than 3.4. That is the answer for question number 12. Question number 30. Find the interval of values of x for which y less than or equal to 2. We have to get the interval of values of x for which y less than or equal to 2. So if I represent this part, actually in the Cartesian plane, this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis. So if I draw the line y equals 2, I told you y equals lines are always horizontal lines. So I will draw y equals to, this is 2 in my Cartesian plane, and this line means y equals 2. So the upper part to this line, this part is called y greater than 2 part, and the below part to this line is called y less than 2 part. Upper part is called y greater than 2, below part is called y less than 2. So here in this case they ask us to consider the part of the graph which belongs to y less than or equal to 2. So here also first I will mark the line y equals to. So this is y equals to line. This is y equals to line. In this y equals to line, they ask us to consider y less than or equal to 2. Less than part means below part. So in that below part, we have the graph starting from here to here. So in this part, we have to get the x value range. For this part, we have to get the x value range. So I told you, when getting the x value range, we write the minimum value in that part, we write the minimum value for x in that part, we write the maximum value for x in that part, and between that we write x and we put the inequality part. What is the structure? Minimum value for x belongs to that part, and maximum value for x belongs to that part, and in between those two we write x and we mark the inequality sign with this way. So here in this part of the graph, minimum value for x is this one. Minimum value for x is 0. Maximum value for x, this is the maximum point, so maximum value for x is 4. So in between that we have to write x and we have to put the inequality mark. So the common range is x greater than 0 less than 4. So that is the part for y less than 2. That is the range represent y less than 2. That means x greater than 0 less than 4. Here they have given y can be equal to also. So y can be equal to means x can also be 0. Here also x can also be 4. So when we have equal mark here, for these inequality signs also we put the inequality mark. So this is the answer for question number 13. Then question number 14. Using the graph, find the interval of values of x for which the value of the function is less than -1. Value of the function, again function means what? Function means y. They ask us to consider the part of the graph, which the value of the function is less than -1. less than minus 1 means function means actually y, no? So that means we have to consider the part of the graph which y is less than minus 1. So before that, I'll draw the line y equals minus 1. So here, this red color dotted line represent y equals minus 1 line. So all the values less than minus 1 is in the below part to this line. All the values more than or greater than minus 1 is in the upper part to this line. So here we have to consider the less than part, that means the below part to this line. In this below part, we have the graph starting from here to here. We have the graph part starting from here to here. We need to get the x value range. We need to get the x value range that belongs to this graph part. So here the common structure is we write the minimum x value and we write the maximum x value, and in between that we put x and we write the inequality marks with this way. So here the minimum x value is 1. Maximum x value is 3. Then in between that we write x and we put the inequality signs with this way. So the answer for question number 14 is x greater than 1 less than 3. Here in this question we don't put equal marks in this inequality part because here they have not put equal mark. If they have put equal mark, that means if they give the question with this way, then in the answer also for these inequality marks we also put equal part. If they have given the equal mark, then for these inequality also we put the equal mark. If they have not given the equal mark, then we also don't put that equal mark. So this is the answer for question number 14. Then question number 15, write the interval of values of x on which the function is increasing in the interval y greater than minus 1 and less than 2. So in question number 15 they have given the y value range. Y value is greater than minus 1 and less than 2. So here y value greater than minus 1 means, if I consider this part of the inequality, y value is greater than minus 1. Y greater than minus 1 means this is the line, this dotted line represents y equals minus 1 line. Greater than minus 1 means, as I explained before, above this line. And here this part of the inequality represents y less than 2. So this line represents y equals 2. Less than 2 means below this line. So you can see y greater than minus 1 less than 2 means above this line and below this line. So that means which part? We have to consider the between part for these two lines. That means in this part we have two parts belongs to this graph, starting from here to here and starting from here to here. And they have given consider the increasing part. Consider the increasing part of the graph. In the question they have given using the graph, write the interval of values of x on which the function is increasing in the interval y greater than minus 1 less than 2. So in between these two lines we have a decreasing part and an increasing part, and they ask us to consider the increasing part. They ask us to get the x value range of the increasing part. So that means from here to here we have to consider in the graph. So I told you when getting the x value ranges. So before that this is the part that we should consider in this graph. This is the part that we have to consider from here to here. In this graph part, I will write the coordinates. Here the coordinate of this point is 4, 2. Here the coordinate of this point is 3, minus 1. And for that same range, for this same part, we have a decreasing part also. So in that decreasing part also, I will write the coordinates. Here the coordinate is 1, minus 1. 1, minus 1. Here the coordinate is 0, 2. 0, 2. So I just roughly mark the coordinates. Then in the question they ask us to consider the increasing part of the graph within this interval. So within this interval we have to consider the increasing part, that means this part. So in this part I told you when writing the x value range we write the minimum x value, maximum x value, and in between that we write x with these inequality marks. Here the minimum x value belongs to this part is 3. Maximum x value is 4. So minimum x value 3, maximum x value 4, and in between that I have to write x and I have to put this inequality sign. So the answer for this question, the x value range for the increasing part belongs to this range, we can write as x greater than 3 and less than 4. That is the answer for question number 15. Then in question number 16, they have given the same range, y greater than -1 but less than or equal to 2. Less than or equal to 2 means that y value can be equal to 2. Then they have asked the question, write the interval of values of x on which the function is decreasing. Now in the 16th question, they ask us to consider the decreasing part. So decreasing part means this one, this is the increasing part, this is the decreasing part. So now in this decreasing part, we have to get the x value range. That means in this part, we have to get the x value range. I told you when getting the x values, we have to get the minimum x value, maximum x value. Here the minimum x value is actually 0. Maximum x value is 1. In this part, minimum x value is 0, maximum x value is 1. And in between that, we write x and we put the equal marks. Here, they have given y can be equal to also. So this one represents the decreasing part in the interval y greater than -1 less than 2. But they have given less than or equal to 2. That means y value can be equal to 2 also. So y can be equal to 2 means this is the x value, this is the y value. Here this is the x value, this is the y value. Y can be equal to 2 means x can also be equal to 0. So for this part we can write the equal mark in this inequality. Y can be equal to 2 means if y can be equal to 2, x can also be 0. So I wrote the equal mark here. But they have given y is greater than -1. Greater than means that is not equal to -1. So when y is not equal to -1, x also cannot be equal to -1. So here I am not putting the equal mark to this part. Only for this part I am writing the equal mark. So that is question number 16. Then question number 17. Question number 17, they ask us to get the range of values of x or the interval of values of x on which the function is decreasing in the interval y greater than or equal to -1 less than or equal to 2. So the same range, greater than or equal to -1 means now y can be equal to -1 and y can also be equal to 2. So as from the previous knowledge, if I write the range of values, all the values are greater than 0, all the x values are greater than 0 and they are less than 1. And here they have given y can be equal to 2. So when y can be equal to 2, x can also be 0. So because of that I am marking the inequality mark here. And they have given y can be equal to -1 also. So when y is equal to -1, x can also be 1. So because of that, here also I have to put the equal mark. So this is the answer for question number 17. Then question number 18, they ask find the values of x for which y equals 0. Find the values of x for which y equals 0. Y value 0 means what are the points? Here at this point y value is 0. And when y value is 0, x value we have marked in the previous part, that is 0.6. Here at this point also y value is 0. So the x value is 3.4. So for question number 18, you can write the answers. For question number 18, you can write when y equals 0, x equals, when y value is 0, x equals 0.6 and x equals, here the value, x value is 3.4. So actually finding the x values when y equals 0 means finding the x values for the intersecting points of the graph and the x-axis. So these are the two intersecting points of the graph and the x-axis. So those are the values of x when y equals 0. Then question number 19. By using the graph and algebraically find the roots of the equation x squared minus 4x plus 2 equals 0 to the nearest first decimal place and thereby obtain an approximate value for square root 2. So they have given the equation x squared minus 4x plus 2 equals 0. By using the graph, we have to get the roots of this equation. Roots means the solutions for this equation. So here, actually x squared minus 4x plus 2 means what? X squared minus 4x plus 2 means the function of our graph. That means actually the function of our graph. That means y. So here, they have written y value equal to 0 in this graph. So in the previous part we wrote when y equals 0, what are the x values? When y equals 0, x values are 0.6 and 3.4. So actually those are the roots of this equation. Those are the solutions for x for this equation 0.6 and 3.4. And then as the next part of the question, they have asked us to get the value of square root 2. So for that, I am using the function of the graph that we formed for the common format y equals plus or minus x plus a squared plus b. So that is the answer for question number 6 in the graph. So in question number 6, we wrote the same function in this format. That is y equals x minus 2 squared minus 2. Can you remember actually this is the answer for question number 6. Then why did I choose this format to find the square root value of 2? There is a reason. So in this format we have 2 at the end. So when we have 2 at the end, in the question also they ask us to get the square root value of 2. If we have 3 in this position, then in the question they ask us to get the square root value of 3. If we have 10 here, they ask us to get the square root value of 10. So always the value here, they ask us to get the square root part. So here we have 2. So in the question also they ask us to get the square root value of 2. So when finding the square root value, they have given y value is equal to 0. This function equals to 0 means y value equals to 0. So that part I am going to apply here. So y value equals 0. Here also for the y value I am substituting 0. 0 equals x minus 2 squared minus 2. Then I am taking this minus 2 value to this side. So minus 2 become plus 2. Plus 2 equals x minus 2 squared. I need the value for square root of 2. So for that I have to put square root for the left hand side of this equation. So when I am putting square root to the left hand side of this equation, I must put square root to the right hand side also. Then what happens? Here we have square root 2 in the left hand side, and this square and square root get cancelled in the right hand side and we get x minus 2. Here I told you when y equals 0, what are the x values? 0.6 and 3.4. So when y equals 0, we have written y value 0. Y value 0, x value should be 0.6 and 3.4. So to get the square root 2 value, I can substitute these two values in this equation to obtain the value for square root 2. So I am going to substitute x equals 3.4 here. When x equals 3.4, we can write square root 2 equals x minus 2. For x I am putting 3.4. So square root 2 equals 3.4 minus 2. So square root 2 value we obtain as 3.4 minus 2 means we get 1.4. For the same thing, for the same part, for x we can substitute 0.6 also. I'll do that part here. I'm going to substitute 0.6 here. X equals 0.6. So square root 2 value equals x minus 2. X value means 0.6. So 0.6 minus 2. Then we get for square root 2 as minus 1.4. So normally, as the square root value of a digit, we consider the positive value. So we can accept 1.4 as the square root value of 2. This one is also correct, but normally we take the positive value for the square root part. So square root 2 equals, you can write 1.4. That is the answer for question number 19. Then question number 20, write the relevant quadratic function in the form y equals x plus a squared plus b for the graph that is obtained by translating the given graph vertically upwards by 4 units, and in the second question they have asked vertically downwards by 3 units. So in these type of questions, we add the number of units. When they take the graph vertically upwards, we add that number of units to the function which is written in this format. So here the function is y equals x minus 2 squared minus 2. If they take this graph, in first part they are taking this graph 4 units upwards. So then for this function of this graph, here the function of this graph is y equals x minus 2 squared minus 2. So I am taking this format because they have asked us to represent the answer in that format, in this bracket squared format. So that's why I am taking this format. Format is y equals x minus 2 squared minus 2. So when they are taking this graph 4 units upwards, we have to add 4 to this function. If they are taking this graph 4 units downwards, we have to subtract 4 from this function. If they are taking this graph 100 units upwards, we have to add 100. If they are taking this graph 20 units downwards, we have to subtract 20. That's the part. Then y equals 4 units upwards, so I add 4. Then x minus 2 squared minus 2 and plus 4 gets simplified. We have different signs, so we subtract the smaller value from the bigger one and we put the sign of the bigger value. When we subtract 2 from 4, we get 2. Sign of the bigger value is plus. So the answer is plus 2. So the new function obtained by taking this graph vertically upwards by 4 units is x minus 2 squared plus 2. And in the second part they have asked, the function that is obtained by taking this graph vertically downwards by 3 units. So what should we do? We have to subtract 3 from this function. Function is y equals x minus 2 squared minus 2. From this function, because of taking to the downwards direction, we have to subtract. Subtract how many units? The number of units that we are taking. We are taking 3 units, so subtract 3. So we are getting the answer y equals x minus 2 squared minus 3 minus 2 gets simplified and we get the answer as minus 5. So that is the answer for question number 20, part 2. So from this video, we covered the first question in that question tude, and you can see there's another one remaining. No? The second question is for you. You can try that part alone from the knowledge on the first question. Actually, you have seen in papers also, you are getting about 3-4 questions after the drawing part, but we did 20 questions covering all the question types that you can have from the lesson curve graphs in your O-level examination. And this is another small part. In this graph lesson, actually you can have mainly 2 question models. You can have only 2 question models. First one, they can ask you to draw the graph, and then after that they ask 3-4 questions from that. And the second question type, second question model, they provide you the graph and then they ask about 5 questions from that. So you have to answer those 5 questions by looking at that graph. So in my question tude, the second question covers the second question model that I described here. So you can try that part alone from the knowledge that we did here in the first question, and soon I'll upload the answer sheet of that second question in my YouTube channel. So to keep in touch with us, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to share this video with your friends also. See you soon with another